The program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to the 370,000 acre Masai Mara. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
And you say your village is where exactly? Up here. Good, okay. Well, are you quite old really? Oh, sorry. Everybody, hello. My name is James Hendry. Lovely to be with you. Obviously that was just a little play acting. I don't really think that wooden sculpture is alive. Not always, anyway. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us for the course of this safari. We will be bringing you four feeds from the Mara, me up here in what has becoming known as the castle on the hill, and then Brent and Jamie and Scott are down on the valley floor, if you like, I think probably heading to the crossings on the river. But they will tell you a little bit more about that as they go. Please do ask us as many questions as you like. Hashtag Safari Live. Questions, comments, send us any info you'd like. Tell us what you want to see out here. It would be really nice to hear from you during the course of the show. If you weren't with us this morning, and well, shame on you if you weren't, but if you weren't, it's okay. We were exploring in the same way, 3 vehicles out, we had a balloon up, and we're going to be in this section of the great Mara ecosystem over there. Mara Serengeti ecosystem, and I'll tell you anything you want to know about the migration. I'm learning more about it every day, and hopefully we'll be able to fill you in on the information and see some spectacular things this afternoon. Let's head across to Jamie, and she'll tell you exactly what she's going to be doing.
I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I know that it's going to be exciting because, well, it always is out here. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Manu is on camera with me, and actually I do have a rough idea of what we're going to do. And the funny thing is, I said to Brent before I left this afternoon, I really want to go and find some black rhino. And then as we were driving along, Manu was nowhere in earshot. He said to me that he thinks we're going to see rhino this afternoon. So there you go. Seems to be written in the stars, or the dust, or something. Don't forget to send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. I'm also planning on going and exploring a new area, newish area for me anyway. There's a marsh over there, and it's caught me out once before because the road went in a direction that I thought was the right one and it didn't, and then it was a dead end. So I'm going to go and explore some roads and learn my way through that particular marsh. And who knows, maybe we'll see the lions that we saw from the balloon this morning. That's my plan for this afternoon. I don't know how it's going to go. As you know, plans never work out the way we plan. Now, Shell, you would like to know why it is we're starting so early. The reason being is that obviously, as you know, we're doing an all-Mara drive this afternoon, and we have to be back in the reserve at 6:30 in the evening. So we've started off at 3 so that we can do give you the full 3-hour sunset safari as we always do, without getting ourselves into a situation where we have to rush back, finish off at the gate, all 3 of us on top of the mountain road. So that's why we've changed it to an hour earlier. The alternative, of course, because we do go out at night, would be to get an Askari on the back with us, but it didn't really seem to be worth it for his time to essentially be out with us, just that little bit extra to make it work. So that is why we are out an hour early. As you know, the Mara feed is going to provide you with some odd-timed broadcasts on Facebook. That is going to be half the fun. Right, dust is coming. Quick you go, over to Scott so he can say hello.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on board with myself, Scott. Oh, there's a bit of a rapid stop. Getting used to the vehicle still. For those of you who weren't on the morning sunrise safari, oh, and I've also forgot my sunglasses on, so you can see I'm completely rusty. I've forgotten all the things I'm supposed to do, but we'll get there eventually. You've come at a good time. We've just stumbled upon a beautiful journey of giraffe. There's one to the left, and she seems to be looking over to a large herd to the right that are spread out across this valley below us. And what an absolutely wonderful scene that is to get started off with. I'm very happy to be seeing these Maasai giraffe because where I've been for the last year, there's a different subspecies that occurs further north called the reticulated giraffe. And they look completely different. So I'm enjoying seeing the shapes and patterns of the Maasai giraffe. They've got more splotchy, irregular patterns with a less bold, it's not a bold white coloration in between. It's more of a creamy color. Whereas in my book that I've pulled out, I'll be able to show you a comparison of the two, and it's actually perfect because they're right next to one another. Look at that for an incredible difference. And just a few hundred kilometers north of here, you start getting these reticulated giraffe with very bold, clear, distinctive markings, and they are certainly my favorite of the giraffe species. Having said that though, all giraffe are quite wonderful, as are these Maasai. This one's covered in oxpeckers, which you can see catching a ride on its neck. Oh, well done VM, just in time. Maybe they're going off to land on another one. Now I only got a brief glimpse. They seem to be red-billed oxpeckers. You get two types of oxpeckers, both the red-billed and the yellow-billed. Seems like that bush might be a little bit low for the giraffe to get to. Hello Nick, who's only 4 years of age. It's wonderful to have you on safari with us. And Nick would like to know, what do the giraffe like to eat? Well, Nick, because they're so tall, they like to eat on mainly the leaves of trees that are kind of at eye level with them. But if they have to, they will bend down and browse on or chew on smaller bushes with leaves lower to the ground. But leaves is their favorite food. There we go. There's a good example of it bending down to get to some tasty leaves. But they do not eat grass. They almost strictly eat the leaves of trees. And isn't it amazing how big they can get from just nibbling on little leaves all day? Well, Nick, as you can see, they're all chewing away, so this is obviously a very tasty plant that they're feeding on. It's so calm and peaceful out here now. When I stop talking, there's just a very still and almost sleepy silence. And that's probably because it's still quite warm, so a lot of the animals are quite relaxed, taking it easy. But as the sun begins to set down to the west, I think we're going to be in for a lot more action and activity. Now, our plans for this afternoon are to kind of take a similar route to the one that we took this morning. The reason being is we left the pride of lion, the Angama pride. There was 3 lioness and 10 little cubs, 7 slightly bigger ones and 3 slightly smaller ones. And they actually crossed over this road from left to right and then continued down a riverbed where we eventually lost them. It was quite a deep ravine. But we want to go back there and see if we can't work out where they are, just so we've got an idea of what's going on and any possible good prospects for later on this evening. So, we are going to send you across to Brent, who has found some buff.
Well, you see, Mondays don't have to be that depressing, as that
this group of buffalo have decided to have a spa day, and they are looking very, very comfortable in one of the drains next to the road. Good afternoon, my name is Brent Smith. I have Dangerous Dave Eastall on camera, and we're in the marvelous Mara. Hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions. And have a look at that one to the right, who's completely covered in mud from tip of the horn all the way to the tip of its nose. So a little breeding group here, and they found a lovely little muddy wallow in which to spend their time. And we do have a few ox. Oh, look at that! A wattled starling sitting on top of that buffalo. That one, that's correct, Dave. Dave's learning birds. Here we go, a wattled starling using a buffalo as a perch. Oh, and there's an oxpecker popping up next to it. It's a juvenile. Oh, disappeared. Now you can see that wattled starling's mouth is open, and it is quite warm out in the sun there. And when you see birds doing that, it's called a gula flutter. Now what that means is it's bringing air quickly over its tongue to help cool it down. Now let's have a look what oxpecker species we have. There's an oxpecker sitting on the horn there. So yellow-billed oxpeckers are far more common in the Mara, but I'm hoping that we can add a red-billed soon to our Mara bird list. Oh, I can't really see. Is that a yellow-bill? I thought I saw a flash of yellow, Dave. Yes, and unfortunately not a red-billed oxpecker. Not yet, anyway. So our plan for this marvelous evening is to trundle down towards the Mara River, right in the northern corner of the Mara Triangle. And there's some lovely little roads through the riverine forest there, and we're hoping we might find a Djuma. A Djuma. What is that? Well, that is the lingo in this area for a spot up, which is of course a leopard. So we're going to try to see if we can find a leopard around the Mara River. There were some lions. I know Dave saw them from the balloon, and we're going to see if he can find them from the ground. Just test Dave's aerial tracking skills. Is that very... Oh, a yellow-billed oxpecker landed there. Into the ear. Now, often when oxpeckers go into an animal's ear, people assume they are removing ticks, which they do, but they also have the ability to digest earwax. They have special enzymes that enable them to break down earwax into something nutritious. Dave, would you like buffalo earwax for breakfast? Or afternoon tea, rather? Maybe not. No, I agree with you. Let's move on. No buffalo earwax for us. Now, we're going to keep moving down towards that northern corner, and Commander Bond is lording above us from the top of the hill. Let's go see what wonders he has to show you.
Well, what I have to show you now is where everybody is. Now, I don't know if you were watching us this morning, but, you know, as we go through this sort of wonderful adventure that we're having here in the Mara, so we're going to learn more and more about this ecosystem. But if you weren't with us this afternoon, at least this morning, let me show you a little bit about where we are. You will find us over there at Angama Mara. That's the place where we find ourselves. We're not staying in the salubrious accommodations that are afforded by... Are you struggling with me there? Let me move around this way. Salubrious accommodations afforded by Angama Mara. We are staying in the salubrious accommodations. Beautiful tents we have here, constructed by Stefan Winterboer and his team over the last little while, and that's where we are there. As I said, 370,000 acres or so, about 1,500 hectares, sorry, 150,000 hectares, so it's a massive piece of land. And we've all driven down the hill, well, the three who are out there have, and Brent has managed to find those buffalo pretty much over here, where I'm looking there. Jamie is now already almost at these crossing points over there, and Scott has gone a little bit north up that way, and he's looking for those lions, and I believe that he's actually managed to find them, which is quite exciting. So we're not going to go quite across to them just yet. So that's the story of the state of play. Now, today, earlier on, you know, everything is just a little bit up in the air at the moment, but that's okay, because it means that you get to come on the adventure with us. It wouldn't be nice if it was all entirely pristine and easy, would it? I don't think so. Now I've lost my wildebeest, of course. Naturally, the only things that I want, I have lost. Oh, this is very irritating. Here they are. Okay, here are the wildebeest, don't worry. There they are, all 5 of them, representing some 1.5 million of their brethren down in the actual Mara. So there they are. This is where Brent found them a few days ago, and Jamie's going to head here towards these crossings because they have been heading north up the river towards those areas, and they are going to be crossing. Now, the big thing about the crossings to understand is that there's no real reason for them to be crossing in many respects. I mean, they cross to and fro over this river again and again during the 3 or 2 months that they happen to be in this area. It can be as little as a month, it can be up to 3 months, and sometimes even longer. But they cross over these crossings again and again, dependent probably on the rain, but there often seems to be no real reason. So that's what we're going to be watching, hopefully sometime soon, one of these afternoons, maybe even today. Now, Aaron, you want to know how big this area is in comparison with the Sabi Sands. That's Alan, not Aaron. The Sabi Sands in its entirety is 60,000 hectares. That is 60,000 hectares is 600 square kilometers, right? So this is 3 times the size of the Sabi Sand. Our traversing area here of 150,000 hectares or 1,500 square kilometers or 370,000 acres, depending on which sort of scale you choose to use, is 3 times the size of this entire Sabi Sands. So it is a massive, massive area. And because we're perched way up here, and I'll just let Stenzel show you how far perched we are, we can get a signal from a quite astonishing area because we're so high up here. And because down below, where I'm about to send you with Scott, is so very flat.
Yes, as James says, the signal is wonderful here in the Mara, as are the lion. And especially so today for VM and myself. We've been spoilt rotten, and it didn't take us long to come across these members of the Angama pride. It seems like 2 lioness and the 7 bigger cubs that are about 3 or 4 months old, all lazing about in the shade of a tree here. And what I'm guessing has happened is that the other lioness, who's got the 3 smaller cubs, has moved off slightly kind of further down in the direction that you can see now, as that's where we left her this morning. These ones, interestingly, came back to this tree. They lay down here for a short moment this morning. And for those of you who were with us, that was when the angry aunt started snarling at the cubs. And then they all continued to move off. But some have returned here, and others, or the other lioness, has moved off a little bit further down a riverbed that kind of runs alongside this road. And as you can see, it is siesta time. They did ever so briefly open one eye when we arrived, just to keep an eye on us, to see who we were. And isn't it wonderful how we can be so close to them, yet they can go about their daily business with little concern of us being here. This lady seems to be kind of the most awake out of the rest of them. And you never know with these animals. You could get lucky. They could get up and start moving. It's difficult to see now, though, but when they were on the move this morning, we did notice that their bellies were very, very full. So they're going to be uninclined to go out in search of food. Early on, they'll probably wait for things to cool down, wait for the cover of darkness before they get moving. Who knows, though? If we look to our right, just to give you a bit of a perspective of the area we're in and where we've come from, there's a herd of giraffe kind of dotted off across us, and these are the same giraffe we were looking at earlier. Hello, Dizzy. You've mentioned that these lions look huge compared to the lions in the Sabi Sands. And you know what? I think You are entirely right. I think they are considerably bigger. They get fed extremely well here for a few months each year, and that is mainly during the migration. Outside of the migration, the prides of lion can actually have quite tricky times here because they don't have the surplus of food that they've been used to cashing in on. They're probably also a little bit slow and sluggish, having gained so much weight over what you could essentially call the lion of the Mara's festive season. Well, thanks for sending through all these questions already. Boyd has sent one through wondering about the flies that are dotted all over these lions. And why are they there? Good question. Like most flies, they are attracted to kind of smelly things, and lions do have quite a smelly breath, I am told, understandably. Although these flies, I'm fairly certain, are biting flies. So they're actually hoping to try and suck little bits of blood from the lion. And the best place to do that is where there is the least fur. And you'll notice that most of the flies are congregated on the snout, where it's the easiest place or most likely place that their tiny little proboscis, like a little needle, will be able to puncture into the lion's bloodstream while they fill up with some lion gas, and then off they go. So Boyd, that is what the flies are doing. Obviously quite a nuisance for the lions. They'll twitch their ears from time to time. Even from time to time they'll snap at them when they're really frustrated. Thankfully though, the flies are not biting us, so that's the good news. There are some parts of East Africa where you get lots of tsetse flies, which can be an absolute nightmare. Now, I was discussing the likelihood of them getting up and active and doing any hunting a little bit later on, and James is interested to know if their strike rate or the efficiency of the lions in the Mara is more effective than that of lions in other areas. And James, I think certainly yes. Over the migration months, when there's an absolute bounty of food, it's a buffet for the lions. They literally probably don't even have to get up from where they're sitting. They can just wait for the wildebeest to pass by or the zebra to pass by. Such a state of chaos and confusion that the lions have actually got it very, very easy. And it would be an unfair statistic almost to base their skill sets against other lions, because they really are just in a very fortunate place to be a lion over those months. But I guess if you spread that out over the year, or maybe kind of only track them during a more likely or more common period of prey, it would be interesting to see. And I'm guessing what would happen is you'd probably find that, you know, certain individuals within prides are the key hunters more so than others. And then, yes, certainly, one pride may have more skilled hunters than others. But I don't think we can categorically say that here in the Mara that they are more successful hunters. Although, the next few months is going to allow us, firsthand, the most awesome experience and opportunity to be able to investigate this, and we'll find out for ourselves in a short time, James. So keep watching, and what I can assure you is there is going to be lots and lots of action to look forward to. Okay, well, we're going to probably leave these lions and head back to a little waterhole where there was a hummerkop fishing, and scratch around, see if we can find anything else exciting, and then come back a little bit later when it's more likely that they wake up. And in the meantime, you're off to Jamie.
Yeah. Well, Scott and I have had very similar plans, except I didn't just come to a waterhole. I looked at something that looked very green and decided I'd come in the direction of the swamp. And it seems to have paid off in the most extraordinary way, because there is such a vast abundance of wildlife. We've got the zebra, I think the first of the migratory zebra actually to have made the crossing across Chitwa Tembo. And then we have got all sorts of other creatures, and if we look as Manu slowly scans along to the right, there's some warthog over there. A whole sounder, actually, of mud-covered warthog. I saw some others earlier as well. And there they are. A whole sounder of warthog, snuffling about in the muddy water, enjoying themselves immensely, it appears. And, of course, the topi, because no abundant wildlife sighting would be complete without a herd of topi. And there's a zebra bottom with some floppy ears. Yes, talking about you. Don't look so dejected, Eeyore. It'll be all right. And then we have got some of my absolute favourite birds to show you as well. In the back there, Mano, behind the zebra, are some truly stunning birds, the crowned cranes, which of course is an endangered bird species, and that we see quite regularly, though, on these drives. And they are really... Oh, and there's a baboon in the back. Goodness, there's so many things to look at, I don't quite know what to talk about first. Now, the crowned cranes, I think, are one of my favourite new bird species. I didn't even really think about that before I got to Kenya. I didn't think about how much I would enjoy seeing them. But they've got something truly gorgeous about them. I think it might be that fabulous crown that gives them their name. Oh! Trot, 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 goes the sounder of warthogs. Now, Stephen, you would like to know, as Kirsty said earlier in my ear, if we are restricted to the roads or if we have to drive a... What was that word, Kirsty? Was it minimum? Minimum. A minimum. Kirsty had a little pronunciation wobble there. Stephen, you want to know if we have to keep a minimum distance from the animals. Obviously, every sighting dictates exactly how close you can go to the animals. We are absolutely allowed to go off-road in certain areas, and no, then we don't have to keep a necessarily minimum distance. It's just that we or a maximum distance, I get. It's just we gauge it judging off the animal's behavior. Certain areas, like where Scott is at the moment, we can't go off-road right now. We can at night. And that's something that will, that will change as we go through. Other side of the river, we can go off-road wherever we want to. This side of the river, we can, but we have to be on the other side of a road that's over there. You have to take my word for it. Maybe James could show you on the map, because I can't show you the road. So we can go off-road in certain places, we can't go off-road in other places. So that does dictate exactly how close we get to the animals, of course. There's some ellies over there. I have to tell you, though, I certainly, as much as I find the idea of a close-up elephant sighting appealing, I would not want to go off-road across the swamp. I think it would take me roughly 10 meters before I sank down to the axle, and that would be that. That would be the end of Manu and my game drive as we spent the next hour digging ourselves out. So there's a couple of things. There's the fact that we're often quite far away from the animals, and then there's the fact that we actually learn quite a bit about their behavior from watching them from far away, because you get to watch the interactions play out, you get to watch the way that they move and coordinate where they are in a way that we don't necessarily get to see in the more sort of dense vegetation. There's some other animals over there, some buffalo. So that is... How many different species? Oh, you can count for yourself. Lots of different species, all gathered together. It's beautiful and green. The buffalo get to wallow in the water. So this is why I came here. And thank you to Ian for sending through your question. Now, Ian's wondering about the beautiful crowned cranes and is wondering why it is that they're endangered and do they live in flocks. You can see flocks of them of up to 100 birds, sometimes even more. I have to say I haven't seen that many. Where'd they go? There's some waterbuck there, and an elephant, and a zebra, and some flapping herons, I think. And there's a heron there. Where did the crowned cranes go? I'm disoriented now. Beautifully done. Right, so why are they endangered? Well, the answer to that is probably for the same reason that most of the large species of birds are endangered. So it's a combination of habitat loss, particularly a bird that really likes to live in the marshy areas. Obviously, there's more habitat encroachment there is, the harder it becomes for them to find such a specialized habitat of their own. I don't think they're poached. I don't think that there's any sort of traditional medicinal usage. Maybe feathers, I guess, is a possibility. James has actually got a crowned crane feather in his studio that I found ages ago and have only just given him, so he can show you how beautiful and red they are. Maybe, just maybe, they're used for that, but I think it's more to do with habitat loss. Power lines, of course, is one of the big things that has really knocked the population of lots of different large bird species. Oh. And there are some ibises as well, and some baboon and a heron. Goodness, it's all happening here. I'm going to go and explore further. While we do that, I mentioned a very special feather, and apparently, I'm not quite sure how, but James apparently has it in his hair.
Well, I had it more in my ear than my hair, to be honest, because as we all have seen now, I don't have any hair. I do on my back. I've got quite a lot there. That's not something you should know about or, in fact, have to consider. Here is the crowned crane's feather, and it is this beautiful russet red. I suppose, well, yes, it is sort of ginger, really. It looks sort of chestnutish. Kirsten has just said that it looks like her hair. Well, yes, I suppose it does. I hope your hair doesn't feel quite like that, Kirsten. Or have quite as many parasites in it. Good. Now, Jamie said that I would show you where we were allowed to off-road and where we aren't. Look, it is a little bit of a grey area at the moment, but basically, if you look down over here, in fact, let me make this easy for Sensor. Let's go over here. Sensor is on camera today, by the way. I have been very remiss and not introduced him earlier. And please excuse the state of the studio at the moment. It is a work in progress. It is a bit of a storeroom as well at the moment. Basically, you see the river here going down, and there are there are far more roads on this map than are shown, or there are far more roads in the reserve than are on the map. And there are roads basically that travel along the river like this, all the way along, all the way past Serena and all the way down. Now, Serena, just by the way, is the headquarters here of the Mara Triangle. And we are not allowed to off-road on the riverside of these roads. So there's some marshy areas all the way down here. Now, there's a place called Hippo Pool, which is a beautiful area here. There's a place called Technical or something like that, where the road was a bit more carefully, some fancy road design was implemented. And there's also there's a sort of beautiful pool here where a whole lot of waterbuck hang out all the time. And if you were to go off-road in those areas, you'd leave deep ruts, you'd probably get stuck for most of the time. But there are some areas, I suppose, that were this a private area, were it an area where it was easy to police what vehicles do, then you could put some tracks in amongst the trees that are on the fringes of the river. But because this is a public reserve just about, and it's huge, it's impossible to police what everyone does. You've got to be pretty careful about allowing any kind of off-road privilege. And that's why on the riverside of the roads there is no off-roading. So it will be very unlikely that we'll off-road at all in those areas. But the rest of the areas, depending on how much rain there has been, we may well go off-road when we need to, especially at night time when we're hunting. Now, Willow Wanderer, you want to know which direction it flows? Most conveniently for this map, it flows from the top to the bottom. If it didn't do that, it would be extremely difficult for us as human beings to imagine it flowing all the way up this way. So it flows from the top to the bottom, goes down like that, and then it turns almost 90 degrees and goes off into Lake Victoria. So that's how it goes there. Now, Ali, you want to know how far the Maasai people live from the camp. Well, Ali, the Maasai people are an extensive group of human beings, and they cover an area, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read today covering about 260,000 square kilometers or so. So, I mean, that's a pretty large area when you consider that this area in its totality is 25,000 square kilometers. So it's a massive area. And it's not only in Kenya. They extend in a sort of wide arc around that way like that, all the way down into Tanzania, through and around the Serengeti, up and around here. They are by far the biggest, or most, the biggest group of people that you find in this area. So to say how close are they to the camp would be impossible to say. I mean, the closest village to the camp I've run to a few times, and that's, well, village, I mean, it's 2 huts. And it is probably about 1.5 kilometers, about a mile away from the top of the camp here. So, yeah, it's not far away at all. All right, let's head back down onto the plains with the inimitable Brent Leo Smith.
Well, we are heading now right towards the edge of the Mara River, and we're just coming to have a quick look in this area that's always been quite productive. So, I'm just going to get a bit of height and see what we can find. Oh, my leg's stuck. There we go. There we go. That's what we want. So we've got quite a few Thompson's gazelles around, but I know there's a female leopard that's in this area that the guides have told me. So we're just going to slowly move down towards the river itself. I also want to go have a look at the Chitwa crossing, see if any of those big beastly crocodiles are around. Hi Lisa. Lisa's wondering if there are any dams in the Mara like there are at Djuma. Lisa, there are not. The main reason for this being, it's quite a big... Oh, I've got a friend who's popped down. Hang on, Lisa, while I answer your question. I just need to make a modification. So, there are no dams on the Mara River, as there are at Djuma. Let's just roll this up quickly. Is that better, Dave? Yes. Let's tuck it in. Make sure it doesn't misbehave again. So, Lisa, no. There are a few sort of what they call marine pits here, or borrow pits, we'd call them in South Africa, that are made from when they make the road. But other than that, those occasionally hold water, but there are no man-made dams as such on the Mara River. So it is a completely natural system. There's also a lot of streams and rivers and luggers that are full of water that come off the escarpment. So there's no need to dam water. This is a far more lush place than the greater Kruger area. It gets a lot more rainfall, so there's no need to have man-made dams. Well, talking about an animal that loves wallowing in the mud, let's go across to Jamie.
They love mullowing in the wad. Oh dear. They do love wallowing in the mud. No matter how many times you spoonerize it, it doesn't change the fact that a buffalo loves a mud wallow. And they're all gathered together here, the buffalo bulls on the outskirts and then the rest of the herd a little bit further back, enjoying a day at the local spa. And as you can see, that's what they've been doing pretty much all day, I imagine. As soon as the sun started to get really nice and hot, and even though the temperatures are still quite cool, the sun is very, very strong. And so they found themselves at the perfect position. And there's one or two of them standing up on the bank, so the ones that are lying in the mud or in the water don't have to be too concerned about a predator sneaking up on them. They probably really enjoy this nice open area. There's no long grass, there's no real way for a predator to sneak up on them except at night. So this is the perfect place to be if you're a buffalo. Yes, it's all right, boy. It's okay. I promise. It's okay. There's always one in a group here that closely keeps an eye on you. More warthogs at the back. They, of course, also enjoy wallowing in the mud. And more zebra. Now, Jeanette, while we watch our buffalo flick their ears casually to get rid of the flies, you want to know if the flies get worse in the summer months, or if they... I suppose if they stay the same pretty much all year round. I imagine, having only been here for about a month, I imagine that the flies get worse during the time of the migration, just because there's more animals for them to be attracted to. That would be my guess, so around about this time of year, in July or so. July right up until around about October. That would be my guess. And what I will do is I'll ask somebody who's been here for slightly longer than I have and who's experienced many changes of, well, to say changes of season I'm not sure is entirely accurate, because the seasons don't really change all that much. I suppose now would be the perfect time, because there's been plenty of rain. We've just reached the end of the real rainy season. Now, that, of course, always brings out more flies. But I suspect it will be connected to when the millions, almost, well, yes, over 2 million animals of different species arrive on these open areas. I imagine that will certainly bring the flies a-flocking. I'm going to go and explore this new territory for me. While I do that, I think Scott has a very similar plan.
You've got with us just in time. There's a black rhino just ahead of us, and it'll be interesting to see how it reacts to the vehicle. They can be quite cantankerous, short-tempered beasts, and it looks like it's coming straight towards us. It took a few steps towards us there. Let's just stop here and see what it does. Now we've got a wonderful view of its very hooked front lip, helping to distinguish it from its cousin, the white rhinoceros. And it's got this hooked lip because it prefers eating on leaves, whereas its cousin prefers eating on grass. Just like the buffalo you were with Jamie, it also enjoys mud wallowing, and you can see a whole bunch of mud caked over its skin, creating initially a cooling effect and thereafter a great barrier against all those flies that you can see covered all over its body. And I'm not sure how many rhino you've been lucky enough to see since you've been in the Mara with the rest of the crew. Oh, looks like it may be doing a scent mark there, but we can't really see. I'm just judging by... Oh, there we go. You can see its tail's all curled up. That's a distinctive sign post-scent mark. And wasn't that awesome? A black rhino doing its business. I'm surprised it didn't come at us. Initially it took 1 or 2 steps towards us, and they can quite often come charging in just to kind of investigate, find out what you are, and often at the last moment they veer off, thankfully. So I'm sure in the coming months we'll get to see exactly how short-tempered the black rhino can be. The white rhino, their cousin's, far more placid as a general rule. Oh, I'm not sure if we're going to get another view of it. It sadly disappeared into a bit of a thicket. George, very happy to hear that this was your first ever rhino sighting. I'm not sure how long you've been following Safari Live for, but it's great to have you with us, and I'm glad we got you at least a glimpse of the black rhino. Interestingly, white rhino don't naturally occur up here, so you'll only find black rhino occurring naturally in East Africa, although there has been a fair amount of white rhino brought up from southern Africa who are seeking refuge and continuing to grow the population of white rhino, just not in their home area, and that's not such a bad thing. They're still living out in the wild. But the only rhino you will see that naturally occur in Kenya are the black rhino. Hello. The lilac-breasted rhino just took off and landed in the tree there. Although sadly, because it's in the shade, you cannot see its beautiful colors. As it took off, there was a flash of turquoise. And I wonder if its nest isn't somewhere in this Balanites tree. I saw 2 starlings fly into the tree as soon as the lilac-breasted roller did. So they're possibly competing for a nesting site. They both nest in cavities in trees. So maybe this is a popular spot, or possibly there's a few different apartments within the tree that they each have their own access to. We're going to have to do a better job of finding you one of those in the beautiful sunlight. For those of you who may be joining for the first time, there's some incredibly beautiful species and animals that live out here that can be quite easily overlooked and may not have got as much airtime as some of the biggest stars of the African wilderness, although it looks like we're going to get another chance to redeem ourselves. I see VM was quick on the draw with the camera, and he got you quite close in there as it landed, but that's a better idea of the beauty the lilac-breasted roller possesses. Wonderful. So as I was saying, there is so much to see out here. A lot of the smaller things that once we get the camera zoomed in on, you too will agree with the beauty of them. And it's oftentimes like this when you've stopped for a bird or for something kind of less popular to look at, that a lion may poke its head up, or you may hear some alarm calls from antelope or monkeys nearby. So it's very useful to stop and appreciate the smaller things as we go around this wonderful playground. Sounds like Brent's got himself into a position that he would like to share with all of you, so enjoy.
This is definitely one of my favorite spots in the Northern Triangle, and as you can see, and probably here because Dave's put the ambient up, the rapids in the Mara River. Isn't that just gorgeous? This is just below from one of the crossing points, and there's just a very spectacular spot to just take in. It is beautiful. There's a grey heron. Hello, grey heron, fishing. Watch out for the crocodiles, lots of them in this river, but fortunately for you, they seem to prefer wildebeest and zebra. Now, this is one of my favorite spots so far. And there's a little crocodile next to the heron. See here, Dave, to the left. There you go, hello little crocodile. Even a bit small and pester the heron, but I'm sure he pesters all the catfish in the river. Now, what I'm saying, this is a spot Dave and I have spent quite a bit of time in. We come down here quite often hoping to find a leopard, and I'm sure we will one day find a leopard in this area, but it is just gorgeous. These massive Diospyros trees, and right on the edge of the river. It is just a very beautiful place. Okay, we're going to keep moving around the corner here. As you can see why I keep coming here looking for leopard. Very pretty. We got some thickets, we got big.
It seems as though we have lost Brent, was it? We're sorry about that. The gremlins obviously attacked wherever it was he happened to be. But you've arrived at a perfect time, because we've arrived at a perfect time, not just to have a look at a beautiful giraffe, of course, but because there's something interesting in the tree, in front of the giraffe, not in the tree, below the tree. And we came around the corner, and there we go. The value of exploring a new area has revealed itself in the form of 3, maybe 4 very sleepy lions. I think there's 4 lionesses, or 3 lionesses there. Wait, let's see if we can do a head count. They're all so flat it's hard to see. Okay, there's definitely 3. There might be a 4th lioness somewhere in that puddle of grass-coloured skin. Legs up in the air, exposing their bellies to the sky. And then 1 big male. So, now the question for us, of course, is who on earth are these lions? The male, I imagine, is one of the members of the dominant coalition of this area. Hey, oh, head down again. Hey, is that nice, boy? enjoying a little bit of the afternoon sun. Now, there's 3 named members of the coalition in this area. One is Halftail. He's got half a tail, so that's definitely not him. One is Fang, who's missing a tooth, and one is Blondie, because every reserve needs a male called Blondie. And then there's a 4th member of the coalition that's slightly more mysterious and in fact has only started being seen in recent weeks. Now, it gets a little bit confusing there. I'm not going to put too much sort of conjecture as to exactly who this might be until he lifts his head properly. As for the females, my guess, again, it's a guess, I would guess and say it's the Olololos. The Olololo Pride do spend a lot of time around here. The Olololo Pride, as far as I know, has 3 females, so if there's a 4th female there, then it really adds some confusion. So what we need to do, when these lions are kind enough to lift their heads, is to try and get as many screenshots as possible so that I can take them across to the researchers and they can give us an update as to exactly which pride this is. Now, while our lions have got not much on their mind apart from sleeping, Carter's wondering about something slightly more dramatic, which is how often do you get predator-on-predator conflict in the Mara? I would say every single day, certainly every single evening. There are so many hyenas around. We saw that the other evening with the Angama Pride's hunt when they took down that zebra. You've got a situation where you've got so many hyena, they are inevitably going to come into contact with the lions, or conflict with the lions, especially when the lions kill something. Cheetah and lion conflict is very common. Cheetah and hyena conflict is very common. I would say it happens on a daily basis out here. So it's something that is very, very common indeed. And I think it's something that we're going to see lots of in the future. I'm just waving hello to one of the other guides. Ow! I'm going to sit patiently with our lions and see if they get up so as to reveal who they are. Meantime, Scott has got the largest feathered creature on the planet.
Well done to Jamie on tracking down another pride of lion. It certainly will be interesting to get confirmation who they are and also what they get up to later. As VM zooms in, you will notice a large flock of ostriches, most of which are females, clearly distinguishable by their fairly drab feathers compared to the male, who decided at the opportune moment that he would show you how fancy his feathers are, and as he continues to do so, oh, look, we're in luck. Do your thing. Here you go. Now, they can get really worked up and run around chasing one another, waving their heads from side to side. It's one of the most incredible things to do. They also wave their wings up one at a time. It is the most bizarre running style you will ever see, I assure you. Come on, ladies. I can see you warming up. Go for it. I really thought we were in for some major action there. Oh, there we go. Come on, do the head from side to side. Oh, they're teasing us. They're teasing us, but it could result in something a little bit more exciting if we're just a bit patient. What fascinating beasts. As bird-like as they are, and they are birds, it's hard to actually believe how different they are to all other birds on this planet. Hello, Shelley. You would like an idea of how tall these animals are, and anywhere from 6 to 8 feet would be a comfortable height for a giraffe, an ostrich. So certainly taller than your average human being, and standing next to one, you would certainly feel quite intimidated by their size. that was great. They've seemed to have calmed down now after that initial feather ruffling display and little running about session that they did. We're going to continue now. We're still trying to make our way to a little drying up waterhole, or kind of puddle, where we saw a bird hunting this morning, and because it's such a concentrated pond in terms of food and fish within it, I'm hoping there may be some more predators cashing in on the catfish that remain in there. Afternoon to Ian, who would like to know whether lions hunt ostrich. Yes, they certainly do, and it's been documented on a number of different occasions, but I personally have never seen a lion come into contact with an ostrich. But then again, I've always worked in areas with not too many ostrich, so again, in the coming months, that is something that we could very well witness. I'm sure it's not uncommon for leopard and even cheetah to also try their luck, but probably with younger ostriches. Alright, well, we're going to still continue trying to work out where exactly we are and where we need to get to, and while we do that, we're going to send you back to James.
He's actually getting quite close to where Jamie is. He's not too far away at all. I'm not going to try and show you. Yes, I can show you, in fact, on the map. I'll show you where the wild dog. It was a rhino, not a wild dog. The rhino was somewhere around over here. Brent was up there, sort of looking at the river, somewhere around there. And then Jamie was with the lions around there, and Scott is actually driving around sort of towards her, almost by mistake. So perhaps he'll bump into her, and that will be quite entertaining. Now, Anna, you had a wonderful question, a question very close to my own heart, and I really do enjoy it very much. And it's so crucial to this particular ecosystem that we find ourselves in here. You said, are we close to where humanity originated? Yes and no. It's difficult to say. Of course, the original human being, the modern human being as we know it, stepped out of South Africa, out of a cave around Blombos about 200,000 years ago. There has very recently been a paper published that suggests that perhaps modern Homo sapiens were in Morocco as much as 300,000 years ago. It's still to be confirmed. That will change very much how old we think of our own species. So let's call our own species between 250 and 300,000 years old, edging heavily towards 200,000. However, our ancestors, those hominids that came millions of years before us, yes, they came, we think, from this area. And let me show you how important this area is. Over here, we have got the Congo and the forests in which the chimpanzees currently live. Now, the common ancestor of the modern chimpanzee and the human being died out sometime between 5 and 7 million years ago. Now, that's a long time, really, certainly farther back than I can remember. And that's where our lines diverged. The chimpanzees evolved into what they are now, and the human beings evolved into what they are now. But one of the crucial things that they were able to do once they stood up, or the reason that they stood up, but the selective pressure that pushed them to stand up, was the astonishing amount of food available in this area. Something like 60% of the animals that die in this area die not from predation. They die either of disease or of old age or of injury or whatever other cause they can find to kill themselves from. So there is a huge plethora of stuff here that dies without being scavenged, and probably only about 30% of it gets scavenged by mammalian scavengers like lions and hyenas. Much of the rest gets taken by vultures, and apparently vultures take far more than all of the mammalian scavengers put together. Now that's quite interesting, I think, when you think about how little each individual vulture eats. Their vulture population here is extremely healthy. But of course, if you're a bipedal hominid, roughly the size of a chimpanzee or a bit shorter than even I am now, It's not hard to chase a vulture off. If you clap and make a noise, the vultures will disappear, which meant that there was a massive amount of food here available to any creature that could come onto the plains in the daytime when the marauding predators weren't around and chase off potential or other scavengers, or just find sufficient food to eat. And they did an experiment with this. Some enterprising researchers, as John Reeder put it, walked from here up through the Serengeti and into the Mara, and they seldom managed to get more than 3 miles without finding a carcass rotting quietly in the sun, perfectly edible to human beings, especially if you were able to cook it. Back then they wouldn't have cooked it, but they would have had a digestive system able to eat the raw meat. Now what that meant was, so you've got, well, it's hot, you had heat, and you had daytime. Most predators, of course, are crepuscular. We as human beings, actually, back then, were not crepuscular. We evolved our upright gait to see over the grasses, and in order to get away from the sun. Because we stand upright like that and not like that, our bodies are exposed far less to the sun than something like any creature that sits on all fours. That exposed us less to the sun. We lost all the hair on our bodies, and we evolved the ability, of course, to walk on 2 feet and to sweat quite extensively. And that meant that in the midday, when all the dangerous predators were sleeping under bushes, we could walk out into these grasslands and we could exploit this massive source of food that is the natural die-off of animals. And they have found countless sites all the way around the Serengeti and the Mara of rock tools or stone tools that have sliced open bones. You can see the marks on the bones that people were slicing meat off the bones and also cracking the bones open to suck out the marrow. A massively important part of the human diet, especially, or mainly, if you're either carrying a fetus or you've got an enormous brain, which, well, not all people have an enormous brain, but all people have a brain far more enormous than any other animal out here. Let's head across to somebody who does have an enormous brain, Miss Patterson.
I very much doubt that, but anyway, moving rapidly along to the 2 tiny baby giraffe that are distant, not too far away from our lions, probably about 300 meters or so, and they're staring off at the other giraffe, the big female that we started with earlier. So there's 2 baby giraffe, there's 2 zebra over there as well, probably more, I can only see 2 zebra, and a herd of impala as well. So there's a whole host of animals moving slowly in this direction. I think it's unlikely that the lions are going to leap up and start hunting them, but as Scott discussed, they are opportunists, and if the opportunity does present itself, they will go for a potential prey. I think, though, it's only going to happen a little bit later, and we're going to have to play the patience game for now and wait and see what these lions get up to. I can only see 3 lionesses, which makes me feel a little bit better about my guess about them being or belonging to the Olololo pride. And in case you're wondering how to spell that, hold on 1 second, let me just think about it. It's O-L-O-O-L-O-L-O. Olololo. The Olololo pride, named of course after the Olololo escarpment that we live on. So the Olololo pride, and apparently from what I understand from the Angama guides, the ones that have been here for many years, the Angama pride and the Olololo pride are essentially breakaways, so they're related to each other, and of course both prides are dominated by the coalition that this male belongs to, I think. I haven't really had a chance to see his face, but this area's right. This is the sort of the territory of that coalition. Lisa, I have seen a lion in a tree. It was one of the things that I was most excited about, and the lion that I saw in the tree was one of the Angama cubs, not far away from where we are, I would say. Everything. I don't know how to describe distances anymore. We were probably about 3 kilometers away from where we are at the moment. So that was where I saw my first and only lion sighting of a cub in a tree. I haven't seen it since. It was quite early on in my time since I first arrived here in Kenya. So that was my lion sighting in a tree. I think when we do see lions in a tree, it'll be Manu's first as well. Have you seen lions in a tree before, Manu? No. Manu hasn't seen lions in a tree either, so that's something for us to look forward to. Lions in a tree. There's no really appropriate trees. The reason that they do that for our new viewers, you'd never really see lions in South Africa in trees. Yes, occasionally they hop up and down into them, and they can climb. They're more than capable of climbing, but they do it here particularly to escape the flies. They move up into the shade of the tree to escape the flies and to get a little bit of a cool breeze. That's something to look forward to. And it is astounding to watch. You realize just how capable they truly are. I think it was Taylor that shared that amazing video. I don't know where it came from originally, but Taylor shared that amazing video of the lioness in a tree, and she was basically doing pull-ups. Her whole body was dangling, and she was holding up her weight using her front paws and dangling and then pulling up her entire body weight. It was an interesting lesson in just how strong lions can actually be. Hey, mister, this is not the best view in the world. If you would be so kind as to turn around, that would be really appreciated, I'm sure by all. He, of course, has no concerns for our view. He's just comfortable. I'm certainly interested to see a male lion in a tree. The one thing I can tell you is that we went to... We stopped underneath the shade of the tree one afternoon to enjoy some lunch and to just have a little bit of a break from driving. It was one of those all-day days. And we saw a whole load of lion hair in a massive fig tree. We could see right up to the top of the fig tree. We could see the claw marks from where the lions were lying up in that tree. And I think it's going to be a spot that we spend a lot of time in the future. No movement at all from very, very sleepy cats. Not too many flies yet. And of course, things will change when the migration gets here. The giraffe's still watching them. Look here. There's some very tiny giraffe around. There's one. I thought at first that giraffe at the back there might have been the mother. If you go a little bit to the left there, Manu, there we go. I thought at first that was the mother of the two or of at least one of the ones that's hiding underneath the trees. But then there's another calf off to the left. Oh, there comes another adult. There's another little one. Holly, while we look at our giraffe, yes, absolutely. Giraffe are born with their ossicones. It's one of the sort of differences between a horn and an ossicone. So what Holly's talking about is the protrusions on the top of the giraffe's head. They are obviously officially called ossicones. And when a giraffe is born, they are flat against the skull. And they're basically quite soft and floppy is what I was trying to say. And as the giraffe grows up, or within a few days actually, those ossicones actually pop up and the cartilage starts to calcify and become solid bone. It's a very similar process to the one that small babies go through throughout their sort of early years. As the soft cartilage, the bone plates in the skull fuse, and the joints that continue to grow will start to fuse and solidify as well. So it's a very similar process that giraffe go through with their ossicones. So yes, they are indeed born with them, but they have to be born flat against the top of the head so as to protect the mother. Obviously, they don't really want to go through the whole birthing process. That's difficult enough without your baby having horns, just to add to the mixture. The other solid part of a baby that has to be covered in a protective substance is its hooves, which is covered with a deciduous hoof follicle, which is a sort of a soft, slimy substance so that the mom doesn't get scratched up and that the baby doesn't actually break through the amniotic sac with its very sharp little hooves, and that falls off within a couple of hours after birth. There you go. I think we're going to see it. Oh, his head's up, his head's down again. Ah. Right. While we wait With eager anticipation to find out if this lion is going to turn around and face us, I think I saw Brent driving all the way around close to the Chitwa airstrip or somewhere around there. Let's go and find out if I was correct.
Well, we're actually due east of Jamie, and Dave and I are continuing on our spotted cat search. So we're only going for leopard or cheetah. None of that lion nonsense. So we're right on the edge of the riverine forest that leads up to the Mara River, and we're hoping to see a lounging leopard in one of these beautiful big trees. So we're just going very slowly, and we've got a little secret spot we want to try. We've got some baboons there. Now, not really what you want to see when you're looking for leopards. There's a big male olive baboon. Hello, big boy. There are quite a lot more of them spread out through into the forest, and they are not barking a warning to everyone that there might be a lion or leopard about. Oh, there he comes. He caught Dave out. Laurie's wondering, have we had any monkey or baboon problems in camp yet? No, we have not, Laurie. One dustbin was removed a very short distance by a hyena, but no monkey or baboon problems just yet. Just one naughty Howard stealing a dirt bin. Now, you can see these baboons look quite a lot fluffier than the ones you see at Djuma, and that's because they are. The males can be slightly bigger, females about the same size, but they are much fluffier, and that's probably to do with the altitude and the fact that it is quite cool here. Joshua was asking about if they're bigger. So not much bigger, but on males on average are a little bit bigger than the Chakma baboon. This is an olive baboon. Can you hear that bird call, Dave? Oh, it's beautiful. Just listen carefully, guys. Doot, 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 doot. Isn't that a beautiful call? Oh, I'm going to be very, very sneaky, very evil. Who can tell me what bird call that is? That is a very tricky one. That is not. Ooh, maybe I should tell. What do you think? Should I keep them in suspense a bit?
Yes.
Dave says yes. I'll give you a hint. It's a pair of them calling, and they have a cousin that also has a beautiful call. Oopsie, I pushed play there. A beautiful call that lives on Djuma. And they are black and white. So they're actually serenading each other. Let's actually see if we can get one on camera. They don't sound like they're too far away. Beautiful call, one of my favorite calls. Now, I grew up with that call up in Botswana, as well as the white-browed robin chat. And one of the most pleasant things for me about waking up in the morning here in the Mara is hearing two of those favorite calls of mine in stereo. And we actually get both of those birds right up against our tent. We've got a wonderful big wild olive tree next to our tent, and we get to hear that beautiful sound in the morning and evening. I think they're a bit too deep in the thickets, but hashtag Safari Live if you think you can recognize that. Ooh. Look at that, it looks like a harrier. Oh, it is a harrier! Now, this will definitely be a new bird for everyone. Manushka, you are very, very clever. It is indeed a tropical boo-boo. Well done. I'm going to try and get us a little bit closer to that harrier. Now, there's a couple of different species of harrier we get here, so we're not going to jump to conclusions. We're going to get close enough, but I'm pretty sure I know which one it is. But always want to be... Oh, it just caught something in the grass. Hold on. Just dived into the grass and caught something. There he is, flying there, Dave. It's probably going to land on that termite mound. Oh. Now, he's gone into the grass again. Let's get a bit closer. Now, it's a female, which makes it a bit tricky. And there's two species that look quite similar. Is in the road. Oh, darn it. She's in the road, should I say. Because it's either a female or a juvenile. We're just going to try and get a bit closer. It's either a Montague's or a Pallid Harrier. So we need to get a little bit closer to make sure we can ID it. Now this is a really nice bird. I know the birders out there are going to be as chuffed as cheese. I'm definitely very, very chuffed to be able to show you this. No, there she is, there she is. We're just sneaking closer and closer. We need to get a nice clear view of her. Stalking harriers. It's just around the bend in the road. You see her yet, Dave? Oh, goodness. I think I'm going to try. I have to snap a photo of her. There we go. So we're looking at the bars. Oh, you just land out of sight again. Oh. Now, wait, she might land in a tree. Yes, there we go. Good girl. Being bombed by a fork-tailed dronga. So I don't know how much time we're going to get before she decides to move. And she's off again. That fork-tailed dronga set her going. Oh dear. It's just... Oh, look at that, it is beautiful. So we're looking for the bars and she's landed in the grass again. Oh, we had full zoom, Dave. Okay, we need to get a bit closer. But it's either a Montague's or a Pallid. I'm going to try and get a photograph when you get a bit closer so I can try figure out which one it is. But it's very exciting. There we go. James Henry is watching up above, lording down upon us. So he thinks it's a Montague's. I think he's probably right. Montague's is more common, but I did see a Pallid not so long ago, so that's why I want to make triply sure. Yeah, you see her there on top of the termite mound. Oh, she's really not being very nice, is she? But I think James is probably right. It probably is a Montague's. They are the more common of the two. Anyway, let's have a quick look. Lovely camera work, Dave. Now, see, what we're looking at here is what I was saying. So we're looking at the wings and flight. That's what we're trying to see. So there we go. So that is the Montague's. The next one, come on. There we go. Montague's Harrier, male and female. And you can see how similar the Pallid is. But I think James... Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Dave? Not sure. Well, if you've got a screenshot, hashtag Safari Live. I wasn't quick enough with my camera, unfortunately. I'm going to try sneak on, see if we can get a bit closer to that. I'm quite excited. It's always great to do a bit of birding. Leave Scott and Jamie to look after the big cats today. Speaking of that, well, Scott's not after a cat. He's got something that has eyes like a goat, and the other one is a donkey with stripes.
Well, very happy that you got some bird hunting action with Brent, because we have just arrived at the small puddle where we left a hummerkop hunting this morning. And interestingly, it's still here. It's still sitting up in the tree. And it took off from the water's edge as we landed. So I'm not sure if it was still hunting. But what you'll notice is that just below its beak, its throat is very puffed up. VM's tweaking the camera there to try and illustrate that. Can you see that now? That's the perfect kind of angle. Not that. Although that is still interesting. You've got one feather out of place around on the back there, but we'll let that slide. But look at how full that crop is. It looks like it's been inflated. And that's because this bird has absolutely gorged itself to the point that it looks like it needs a sleep. Well done. Mr. or Mrs. Hammerkop. Difficult to distinguish between them, and good to see that you've had a happy day hunting. You'll probably find that it's staged here so that it can protect the waterhole from other birds coming in and eating all the fish. And what you'll notice is that there's another predator lying nearby, a water monitor lizard. Now this specimen, I'd say, is at least a meter long, just to give you an idea of how big it is. And what I'm thinking it has been doing is it's been acting like a little bit of a hyena. Now it knows that the Hammerkop is a very good hunter, and by lying patiently in wait, all it has to do is try and steal the fish from the Hammerkop as it catches it, because with its big mouth it'll be able to gobble a fish down far more easily than that of a Hammerkop. And doesn't it actually have the most awesome colorations and coat? And VM has done a superb job giving you the tip to tail of a water monitor lizard. Wonderful. So what we are going to do now is we came into this area this morning from that direction, and we've done a few other roads of this area that we hadn't yet explored, but VM has suggested we take another road that he also has yet to explore, as well as me, and that's going to be taking us further south. We're just going to have to reverse a little bit in order to get back onto the road we want to go to, or try out. For those of you who may be joining for your first time, it's great to have you with us, of course. But just to let you know, we have, well, at least I have only started here very, very recently. I only got into camp a couple of days ago, so I'm still trying to work out my way around this ginormous wilderness that we are so fortunate to be able to explore. Good afternoon to Larry, and we'll just let this vehicle pass. Jumbo, habari! And their dust. Sorry about that, Larry. As you would like to know if there are less termite mounds here in the Mara compared to that of the Sabi Sands. Good question, and a difficult one for me to answer precisely. The reason being is that the mounds in the Sabi Sands may be considerably larger than the ones here, so they're far easier for us to see. And a termite mound is very similar to that of an iceberg, in that often it's just the tip that sticks out, and there can be a very large amount below. Now VM has found a perfect example of that. Where you can see the very short chewed grass, that is a termite mound. So they certainly are here, but you may find that they just don't build above the ground as much as other areas. So it's in all likelihood the same type of termite, the fungus-growing termite that actually farm fungus on their own feces. There's another one that VM's found, so, and another one behind it. So they are fairly common, but just not as big. So maybe we're driving past more of them, Larry, without noticing them. And we would have to get some kind of a termite specialist in, I guess, to shed some light on the matter, and I am certainly not that person. But we'll keep an eye out. I mean, even from here, now if we look across onto this side, let's do another quick count, just to give you an idea of how many we can see just from the vehicle. I mean, there's quite a few. One on the right, bottom right of the screen, another one in the center, the big one in the center, and then as VM pans to the left, you'll notice a few more popping up just above the kind of grass line. You get some areas of Africa, Larry, where they grow very thin, long chimneys, sometimes 20 feet into the air. Remarkable structures. And others, like the Sabi Sands, more of a big kind of dome shape. Here, more subterranean. Okay. we are going to now send you back to James for an update of what's happening in his world.
Right, everybody. Right. Kestrel Fox, that's what I was trying to say. Kestrel Fox, you wanted to know from me and my good friend, what should we call him? What's your name? Jumbo. This is Jumbo, everybody. Jumbo was just telling me about an interesting place. Jumbo told me about a place called Latoli, or Latolai, which is just near Olduvai Gorge. And Kestrel Fox, you were wondering about human fossils in this area and if we find them. Look, I don't know about in the Mara. I suspect if we excavated the area for sufficient time, we would almost certainly find them. The thing about fossils, in fact, I don't know if we'd find them. The thing about fossils is that they need very specific conditions to form. And if you look at Olduvai Gorge here, this is part of the Great Rift Valley, all right, where basically Africa is separating, a piece of Africa is separating away from the rest of the continent. And the unique suite of conditions occurred around here in the Rift Valley and in many other parts of Africa where fossils have been found, in that there was obviously a period of sedimentation in the water that occurred around the time when there were ancient human animals or ancient human ancestors around here. And then in order to expose that sediment that contains the fossils, there's been a huge amount of tectonic activity, volcanoes and earthquakes which have pulled and opened up these huge gorges. And that is how Olduvai Gorge or Oldupai Gorge was formed. That is where the Leakeys cut their teeth. That's where a huge number of their finds were made, just around there in Olduvai Gorge. And you will notice, well, I mean, we're obviously not exploring the Serengeti at the moment, but in the Mara here, there is that kind of gorge doesn't exist. You know, there has been a huge amount of volcanic and tectonic activity around this area, but this particular region, the 370,000 acres or so of the Masai Mara, hasn't been particularly affected by it from a tectonic point of view. It has absolutely benefited from the volcanic activity because, of course, these volcanoes that have exploded around Ngorongoro and all the way along the Rift Valley and along the Western Rift Valley, which is this side over here, they've benefited from the ashfall that has fallen all over here, and that's fertilized the soil and made it tremendously good for grass, and that's why it supports such a tremendous number of animals. There's also a place quite near Olduvai called Latoli, like I said. That's what old Jumbo was just telling me about. And it is a romantic place because left in the sediment are these footprints that have been dated to about 3 million years old. And 3 people, roughly the size of a modern 8-year-old, so about my size, no, not quite. An 8-year-old probably take me up to about here in my chest. 3 people, probably adults about that age, walked through that area about 3 million years ago through a mud pan, and that mud pan solidified. I suspect it then was probably laid over with a different kind of sediment, and that sediment eventually eroded away, leaving those wonderful footprints. And those people were walking around here. This is where the food was. There's no question they were here. They were all the way up into the Masai Mara, and I suspect that they went all the way off to Lake Victoria. So yes, possibly there could be some fossils here. It's not ideal conditions for them, but certainly all around here there are absolutely. And then we had a question from somebody who, and I've forgotten what it was. Oh, Debbie, you say, is a lugger like a drainage line? It is like a drainage line. A lugger, and the lugger that Brent was on here, sorry, since I know that I'm not supposed to do this to you, but I'm going to. Are you ready? Just, he's got to change the angle of the camera. It's very difficult. All right, here we go. The lugger that we spend most of the time around actually extends from about there down off towards the Mara River here. I'm not sure if it ever actually reaches there, but it's sort of, it's, you know, it's much less a drainage line than it is a sort of erosion gully, in fact. So I don't know if they'd call some of the smaller rivers laggers, but I think that it's more a sort of erosion gully than it is a tributary of the Mara River. Anyway, that's my story for now. I shall find some more for you. In the meantime, let us go across to Jamie Patterson, who apparently is doing something called bumbling about.